Clip-clop goes the trail, sun is rising high. Two gals in the saddle, 'neath the big Nevada sky, laughing and chatting as the desert rolls on by. It's Saddle Talk, come along for the ride.
Welcome, listeners, to Saddle Talk with Sandy and Kara. Whether you're here to laugh with us, learn, or just ride along, you're in for a really good time. So go grab your helmet or your pooper scooper and settle in with us as we discuss life, horses, of course, and all the unexpected turns along the trail. And hey, whether you're a seasoned cowgirl or you're still learning, remember, we're sharing our own stories and opinions based on decades of personal experience. Always ride safe and check with a professional before trying anything new. Now let's go ride. Hi, Matt. This is Kara.
Hi, Kara.
Hi.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited.
Matt, what is your last name?
Bischoff. Bischoff.
Sandy and I, we always tend to ask people this question, and it's just, can you please describe the moment that you fell in love with horses? Because her and I both actually remember the moment we fell in love with horses. Do you happen to remember your moment?
Oh, that's a great question. So nothing like pops in my mind as far as like this aha moment or whatever. But when I was younger, I wanted a pony. I'll just tell you a quick story.
Mm-hmm.
We were pretty poor. So my dad, he said, well, if you can, find one for free, then you can have a pony. And so I was in 4-H and I had goats and we had, I had stuff like that. And we always had animals. And I was probably 7 or 8, maybe 9-ish. I wrote up a flyer, sketched it with like stick figures and whatnot. And I put it at the feed stores. Pony wanted to get home.
Oh my God.
And some lady called my dad. She said, I have this little pony. I can't remember the whole story, but like her grandkids had it and then they grew up. And so she was just paying board basically. She's like, if you want it, you can come get it, but he's not very trained. And so that was Bucky. That was my first pony. A Welsh Cobb. He was a pretty good sized pony, but he was Welsh Cobb. So he's about 13 hands.
Oh, that's awesome.
Maybe 13 and a half.
How old
yeah.
were you?
I was probably about 8 or 9.
Oh,
And I didn't even have a saddle. I remember we went and borrowed a trailer and went and picked him up. And he was pretty sassy, and he bucked me off 100,000 times. And I didn't even have a saddle. And so, yeah, so he was my first pony. And there was about 2 miles from my house was like a riding. They like boarded horses and she gave lessons. So again, we didn't have a lot of money. So I would go over and muck the stalls.
of course.
And then I would, every day after school, and she'd give me riding lessons like 1 hour a week, she'd give me a lesson.
I feel like the origin story of horse people, it's always like a script.
Yes. I was a little kid and I wanted a pony.
Yeah.
I think that's just.
I know
Yeah.
it's kind of generic, but that's how it happened.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this about me, and this is kind of a weird fun fact, is she taught all disciplines, but I got into, after I rode Bucky a lot, but then I started riding her nice horses. I did hunter jumpers into high school. And so a lot of people don't know that as a lot of my foundation of riding is hunter jumper, and it's funny because I'll do clinics and stuff at different various barns, and people just think I'm a packer from Montana.
Right. And that you couldn't possibly know anything about their discipline. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, right. So, but anyway.
What made you get into Mustangs? Was there something that happened that you thought, hey, I'm going to do wild horses?
Yeah, so in my 20s, I started, doing a lot of packing because I started bow hunting a lot, and I, shot a couple, I just really loved bow hunting and, getting back in the backcountry. But when you shoot a bull elk, 6, 7, 8 miles from the trailhead, it's a lot of work to get it out. So I started to get a little bit interested in packing, and I actually lived in California and did a lot of packing in the Sierra Nevada mountains up by June Lake and all over the Sierras.
Wow.
And I started doing a lot of packing with mules. I would get, Craigslist mules, and I would, train them and work with them, or people would give them to me and problem mules and stuff. And I started training them for packing, and I actually started working with them and getting them riding too. And so then I kind of got the idea. I was like, well, Mustangs are pretty tough, you know. So I went over to Ridgecrest over there in Southern California. There's a pretty nice facility, and I started, you know, looking into it a little bit more. And I thought, you know, I was pretty intimidated by it, but I was like, you know, I'm gonna just give it a shot. And I got my first Mustang, and with intentions of just packing him and not doing anything else. You know, didn't know if I could trust him ever to ride him. Then, you know, realized that these are pretty versatile horses and great for, you know, backcountry mountain horses. And, you know, really fell in love with the whole idea of, like, you know, just like those mules that nobody wanted. You know, I just kind of always had an idea of, like, trying to, you know, take something that's worthless and make it valuable.
Wow. I feel like I was listening to your sort of origin story, and then what you're saying about, oh, heck, I'm just going to do this. It just reminds me of, you must have this very entrepreneurial spirit, and you just, when you want something, you go for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely not cut of a cookie cutter mold. Of definitely always had little side hustles here and there, and always, you know, I don't know. So I've done a lot of things in my life, and yeah, I definitely, a lot of people do say I have a, you know, and I mean, that's the idea, is like, if what's the worst that could happen, you know? I mean, I guess you could get killed, but you know, but
There's that, or maimed. I think
yeah.
worse than getting killed would be like losing a limb, maimed. Or
I mean, I
something.
think a lot of times people, you know, they're very intimidated, and I'm not going to lie, I was too, but, you know, it's like, you just break it down and start. If you don't start, you can't, can't learn, you know?
Sure.
So whether it's my personal life or my professional life, I'm around horses just about every day, 365 days a year.
It's our dream.
Yeah,
I mean, we have our horses
and
on our property, but I would like to have a job where I just play with horses all day.
yeah, well, I mean, it has its challenges at times, but, you know, it's like, I'm pretty lucky to be able to do what I do, and I definitely have a passion for it. And, you know, it's that whole thing they say, you know, if you work, or if you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. And
yeah,
I mean, it's not all bunny rabbits and rainbows, you know.
No,
but it definitely,
no. Sometimes it's
So.
rain and bunny poop. So,
yeah,
exactly.
So.
Well, what's the biggest misconception people have, do you think, about wild horses?
I think that for the most part, people think that they're all crazy and untrainable, and that they're really difficult. And I try to just, like, Mustangs are not a breed. Mustangs are just grade horses that are feral.
Right.
It actually comes from the Spanish word Mustang, which means, you know, feral or wild horse. But will compare it to, like, different breeds, like Arabians and quarter horses and thoroughbreds. And there's, like, some exceptional ones, and there's some, you know, really good-minded ones, and there's some really dinks. And I think that, you know, that's kind of the Mustang thing too. There's some horses that are really easy to train and willing and good-minded, and then there's others that are very, 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 very difficult. So I think the biggest misconception is that they're all the same, and they're not. And I mean, even like, you look at quarter horses. I mean, there's so many different types of quarter horses, and they're all unique and different in their own, and quirky in their own way. And so I think the biggest thing is, just instead of just saying that they're all crazy and untrainable, is that's not the case. Yes, some are really crazy and some are really difficult to train, but some of them make exceptional horses.
Aww. Is there one in particular that sort of changed you, that you can think of? Like, was there an original Mustang where you just thought, oh my gosh, this completely shifted my perception? It's okay if there wasn't, Matt, but I feel like,
as far as my training goes, or as far as just my thoughts on them?
Yeah, your thoughts, training, either.
Well, and also too, you know, you have some beautiful Mustangs that you ended up keeping. I love I don't know his name. I'll know it when you say it, but he's a Blue Roan.
Yeah, his original name is, it's very original. His name's Blue.
Yes.
So
He's beautiful. He is so beautiful.
Matt's a comedian.
He is.
So I will share. Yeah, I'll have to share with you Blue's story. He definitely taught me a lot. So, I mean, I think my first Mustang Maverick, he was a fox hog 4-year-old that I adopted from Ridgecrest. I think he probably opened up my eyes, and he was kind of a medium of the road, Mustang,
Yeah.
not super difficult, not super easy, just kind of a medium of the road. And I think he kind of opened my eyes to like there are there's a lot of horses in here that need homes, and they're very trainable. You just have to invest the time, and I learned a lot. But quite honestly, I do this, like I said, 365 every day, and I earn a living at it. And I would say, I'm a professional at it, but yet I'm still learning, like, every day, how to be better, how to have better timing, better feel, how to communicate better with the horses. And every single horse that I work with, not even just the horse, but in that particular session, will teach me something, how to do a little bit better the next time,
Yeah.
and just refine my skills as far as a horseman. And that's the journey that I think we're all on, is
So
trying to do
true.
better every day. I mean, I feel like, especially with Mustangs, or pretty much any horse, the day that you think you've arrived and you get cocky is the day you get humbled.
Yes, so
Um,
true.
So, but as far as the horses, I've learned so much as far as my horsemanship and my abilities to train horses from each horse that I've worked with. And it's in the hundreds and maybe even thousands of colts that I've started in different clinics and outside horses, and doing colt starting clinics. And I mean, that's kind of my passion. I love, 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 love
Mm.
putting first rides on horses and starting them under saddle. And I enjoy gentling too, but my passion is definitely, and I mean, a couple of mine are pretty broken. I've like the refinement part of it too, but I just love the adrenaline and the challenge of, putting that first ride on that colt, and, helping to support them through that kind of, a lot of times, very scary time for them and the rider. So I'd say every horse that I've worked with has taught me something. Blue definitely taught me a lot. His story is, I'm not to, draw it out, but
It's a podcast. You're supposed to draw it.
okay. He taught me a lot. He was a really tough horse. His story is basically, in, long story short, he was adopted as a 7-year-old
Oh, wow.
out of Alturas. So he's not a BLM branded horse. He's a Forest Service horse.
Okay.
Modoc National Forest does roundups, and I had actually gone up there. And the crazy thing was, I have a tendency, if you guys probably haven't noticed, I tend to like roans.
Yeah.
And
Yes, I have noticed.
and so I went up there to do a training with the Forest Service. They had hired me to come in because they were just starting their program, and they needed a little bit of help, getting things set up as far as the flow of horses. And so they hired me to come in and do a clinic and work with their staff for a few days. And I saw him there, and, of course, he's this big, beautiful blue roan. And of course, he was already adopted out. Somebody was going to get him in Florida. So that was crazy. I saw that horse, and then it actually 2.5 years later. So what happened was, he got adopted out, went to Florida. A lady that had adopted him wasn't even really a horse person much,
Wow.
let alone a wild horse person. So she
Yeah.
sent him immediately into training. He was in training for a couple years, and he ended up injuring that trainer pretty bad. So then the lady ended up selling him to another lady who purchased him, and then he went to about 3 different trainers.
Aw.
I think he broke the one lady's arm.
Oh my
He
gosh.
he kicked the other trainer and broke his femur. So then they ended up sending him to a sanctuary. Or no, so then, yeah, and then he got kicked out of the sanctuary, and then the vet that was working at the sanctuary said, well, I'll take him on, and send him to another trainer. Well, that trainer had him for like 6 months, and then she was going to euthanize him because she didn't know
Oh my gosh.
what to do with this horse, because basically they put him in the sanctuary, and he beat up all the other horses. And anyway, he's
Oh
just
my
he's a
gosh.
very, very, very tough, dominant horse, like that
Yeah.
horse, which is kind of essentially my flavor. And so he's the type of horse that I could be doing a colt starting clinic, and there'd be a colt bucking around the round pen, and, kick him square in the chest, and he just takes it like a man and keeps going.
Yeah.
He's like the toughest horse I've ever. We came face to face with a grizzly bear up here while shed hunting, and he didn't even bat an eye. He just stared the grizz down, and the grizz
Gosh.
just walked. Yeah, he's just that kind of horse.
Wow.
He's the dominant one in the herd. So anyway, the vet that ended up getting him, she had him for a while in training, and then she had a client who follows me on social media, and
Okay.
she didn't know what to do with this horse, and so basically they said, well, call this guy, and I don't know why I decided to take him on, but I did. And
Because he's a blue roan and he's beautiful.
yeah, and I remember seeing him. See, I mean, there was only a few of them. And I remember seeing him when I was there. I was like, wow, that's a cool horse. And I'm like, well, here's an opportunity. And I'm kind of a sucker, because I'm like, she kind of laid the guilt trip on me. Well, he gets euthanized or he gets a chance with you.
Oh, no.
Man, you have
So,
to say yes.
so I took him on. Yeah, we had to figure out how to ship him all the way out. And I didn't want to pay a bunch of money. And she'd already had a bunch of money in. So they ended up figuring out, they raised the funds or something. They got him out to me because he was in North Carolina at that point. Yeah. And so they got him out to me, and it's been a journey. And I wouldn't say that he's gentle, but for me, he's decently broke. I can do just about anything on him. He's a great saddle horse. I can ride him. I can pack him. He just every day is always a little bit of a test. I mean, he's broke. He's really broke. You can always train the horse, but you can never change who the horse is,
Yeah,
and
right.
with him, he taught me a lot of, I have to, it's that delicate balance of, obtaining leadership, these horses. And they don't necessarily, when they're the dominant horse, they don't want a leader. They're used to being their own boss. And so it was interesting. He taught me a lot. But he's a great horse, and he's an amazing horse. And I mean, a couple of days ago, we just got back and we were packing elk out, and he can pack elk, or you can ride him, you can pack him, I can start colts on him, you can do anything on him.
How old is he now?
Let's see here. He was 7 when he was gathered. He's probably 13 now. I had him. He was 9 when I got him.
Okay.
So I've had him 4 years.
Yeah.
Wow, Matt.
Three and a half years. So.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
I know.
That's
what
fantastic.
this is about.
Yeah.
Most of the horses that I actually own, that I have, that are my personal saddle horses, are kind of like Cody. He's the other bay roan that I have.
Okay.
Like he went into the tip program, and he was another dominant horse as a 6-year-old, and he was beating everybody up, and they were going to bring him back to the facility. And so, yeah, it's just like, I tend to gravitate towards the really, because for what I do with work, I can't have I have an amazing little mare that's super, super sweet and very, and I can work colts off of her, and I can do everything off of her, and she'll do it, but she's very timid about it. You know what I mean? She's just not cut of the same, she's very willing. And my son, ever since he was 5 years old, and my kids, they ride her everywhere. And, she does gymkhana, and she'll do barrels. And he just sits up here, and his legs are coming halfway down her barrel. And she just, and people go, oh, because she's so good and she's so willing. So that's, and I'm like, Shug, if you take care of Tuck, then that's your job. And so I don't really do that with her. I need more of the tough horses, the really, really, and she was, a lot more flighty and easier to train, in the sense that, she was just you showed her what you wanted. She's like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Whereas the other type of horses that I tend to gravitate they're more the higher up in the pecking.
F you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, you and I have that in common, that I gravitate towards those dominant geldings. I'm a huge dominant gelding fan, so I completely understand.
Yeah, well, you would, if you ever end up in Montana, you can come check out mine, because they're that tends to be my flavor.
Aw. I have another question. What's the foundation that you would want for every young horse to have before moving on to more advanced work? What do you think that they should have instilled before you ask them for more? Is there a basic sort of menu that you look for?
The foundation of, I start everything at the very beginning, whether it's broke or not, or never been touched, in a round crowd. And I basically start by working with that horse through pressure and release, applying pressure. And what I mean by pressure in that sense is pushing on them, and then releasing the pressures, backing the pressure off, as far as body language. Horses communicate through body language, not like you and I do through vocally. If they're separated from each other, they will whinny. But when they're within their hierarchy of their herd, they all communicate through whoever moves, whoever's feet asserts their dominance within that pecking order of the herd. And I've really tried to understand that more, because that's the communication that horses are really used to. And so when I can start to do that, it's pretty amazing how you can start to work with a wild horse that's never been touched, or any horse at that. You just basically have to, read them, and, it's fairly easy concept of when they do the right thing, you release or take the pressure away. And when you do the wrong thing, you apply the pressure. But then you have to introduce timing and feel with all that. And
Right.
the timing has to be impeccable. If you're a little bit late, then you're not necessarily communicating that horse did the right or wrong thing. And so that is the challenging part, is, being spot on with your timing. And then how much pressure do I apply? How long of a release do I give? That's something that I've just learned over the years with working with multiple different types of horses and reading the situation, that, has started to come a little easier. The biggest thing with any horse, I don't care if it's a Mustang, a warm blood, a mule, any of them, or I should say equine, is that, in my experience, like, you have to at some point obtain leadership with that horse. And I do clinics all over, and 9 times out of 10, the horses that are pushy, they don't necessarily respect. You got 2 components: you got trust and you got respect. And I always try to get that 50-50.
Mhm.
I want the horse to trust me, but then I also want him to respect me. If I have too much respect and not enough trust, then I'm a dictator, not a leader. If I have too much trust and not enough respect, then it's more of a friendship, and he can do things on his terms. And I've found in the training aspect, keeping the horse and myself safe, you really got to get, in my experience, that leadership role where those horses do look to you as that leader, because they actually thrive and crave confident leadership. When we start to kind of question things, and that's been happened in my own career, would start to question things, am I doing the right thing? Then they already know it. They pick up on that. Horses have an unbelievable sense of energy. Not to get all man bun and kale on you guys, but but I mean, the cowboy stuff is fun too, right? But there's a lot to just having energy. There's a lot to it, right? And a lot of times I'll work colts and I'll walk in the round pen and I'll be struggling with something in my life, whether it's personal or business or bills or whatever's on my mind. And if I don't check that at the round pen gate, I'm like, what is going on with everybody? You guys are all being knuckleheads today. No, the issue is with me, because
Yeah.
I'm not 100% present, and I'm not, focused, and that is a big difference. And so basically, back to your question, sorry, I'm rambling on, but
You're fine.
the foundation is, I want to obtain leadership, because they understand that horses are social animals. They're part of a herd. If given the opportunity, they always want to be in a herd. They're a social animal. And within that herd, there's a hierarchy, and nobody's even, right? You got the leader, and then it works its way down as far as the pecking order.
Mhm.
They're given a desire to always want to work to the top. So a lot of times when people say, well, my horse is defiant and he's kind of a jerk, and well, he's been bred and designed to work his way to the top of the food chain. If he's on the top, then he gets breeding rights and he gets the best food, and it's back to self-preservation and survival.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I've had to learn, a lot of times when a colt's being really defiant and he doesn't want me to move his feet, or he's really bracing against me, whether I'm riding or on the ground, doesn't matter, and he's really sassy and he's fighting me a lot, well, I need to really pick apart, okay, am I communicating to him submissive behavior within that language? Then he's going, well, you're saying you're going to be submissive, and now I can be dominant, and now you're switching gears, right? Not really consistent, right? So he's like, so he wants to push back more. And so many times, like in my clinic, I'm like, it's very simple. If you're standing there while I'm lecturing, and you guys are standing there with your horses, and your horses are pushing into you and moving your feet, you're allowing them to be dominant over you. So then when we start to do the exercise and you try to start to move their feet, they're getting a little sassy.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem right there. We just have to stay really consistent, be that assertive but gentle approach, and be very fair. And, it's like I said earlier, it's not all bunny rabbits and rainbows. There's absolutely times where I got to get after the horses, especially if they're a more dominant horse. I mean, Blue and I and Cody and I have been in some pretty good fights,
Yeah.
and the amount of pressure that it took to get them to finally go, okay. But you have to be very fair about it, because especially with Mustangs, they're like mules too. They'll hold a grudge. They won't
Yeah.
just forgive it like a domesticated horse, like a quarter horse. Sometimes they do,
Yeah.
sometimes they don't. But they hold a grudge, and they start to get really sour, and they start to get like resentful, and that's not a way to obtain leadership. So you got to have. It's just a really difficult balance to obtain to get that leadership. But back to that leadership, if you can be that alpha, and you can convince them that and they can accept the fact that you are their leader, it's pretty amazing what you can get them to do.
Listening to you, you are blowing my mind. Like, I'm so excited we are interviewing you. You and I just are very similar in our theory, and I don't trust anyone with my horses. I would 100% trust you with my horse.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And it's and I'm like I said, it's a journey. I'm constantly learning, but I've learned so much. People often ask me, who did I study under? I'm kind of, believe it or not, a lot of people are shocked by this, but I'm an introvert. I've never really been. People are the ones that stress me out, not the horses. But
100%.
and I've had to really learn to be able to talk to people and be able to do clinics, and forcing myself to do clinics has really helped and all that. And I'm on a journey with that. But the thing is that with horses, you really have to just go back to that core foundation thing, is they are a herd animal, and being that confident leader is really, once at first they might fight it, but then they finally accept it, and it's pretty remarkable. So
I actually have an odd question for you. And it comes from my observation of wild versus domestic horses. I feel like you and I really do match up in theory. And so if you don't mind answering this odd question,
Sure.
but have you ever found that wild horses speak wild horse language, or just speak horse language in general, better than domestic horses? Like, they understand that pressure on, pressure off. Like you were saying that there was a resentment, like the
I
Mustang.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think that horses are horses. I think that all horses are similar, but one thing that I've noticed over the years of doing so many different types of Mustangs, and then I've trained countless domestics as well,
Yeah.
is that Mustangs and mules, actually, for that reason, they have a lot higher, and some domestics, so I can't completely rule them out, but I would say
Yeah.
as a majority, is they have a higher self-preservation. Okay.
Okay.
And so that really makes them in tune, because they have to survive. So like you think about like most of these like metallic cat quarter horses and stuff, like they're bred specifically on certain characteristics, right? So
Yeah.
they're very cowy, and they're very athletic, and the way they're built, and they're very feely, and they carry themselves, and that they're selectively bred, right?
Yep.
For that particular job. Or like you look at like a warm blood, like they're selectively bred, to compete in dressage and jump and all these things, right? And so Mustangs, nobody's really selectively bred them, but over the years of them being here, as well, they're an invasive species essentially, but over the years of being here, they've had to selectively breed, basically because it's basically like the tough ones had to survive, right?
Right.
So it's survival of the fittest. So they had to have good feet. They had to, be very like their head on a swivel. So I feel like a Mustang, back to your question, is like a little more like on point, as far as like they just have that sense of like they're a little bit more sensitive, I guess I would say, what you're doing. Whereas I would say a lot of the, like say a draft horse or something is a little more dull, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of times I've worked with Mustangs, and they're very similar to like an Arabian. They're very, very in tune. And, a lot of people, a lot of trainers, I should say, that are primarily quarter horse trainers, they say, well, Arabs are nuts and they're stupid and you can't train them, and mules are nuts, right? And I really don't like the fact, it's just a reality, that the horse industry is very cliquey. Like you have your mule people,
So true.
you have your gaited horse people, you have your Mustang people. Now,
Yeah.
when I first started this, like nobody liked Mustangs. I feel like now it's kind of like this, you're almost
Movement.
cool because you have Mustangs. It's like, it's
Yeah,
definitely,
like the Lifetime Channel romantic version.
Yeah, like it's definitely evolved. And I know there's a couple
has.
movies. I know there's a couple movies, and the Extreme Mustang Makeover has really contributed to that, which is
Yeah.
all great things, right? That's all great. I'm not saying what I'm back to what I was saying is like it's very clicky. And I mean, basically, I love all horses. Like when I do
Yeah.
clinics, like there's Mustangs there, there's gaited horses there, there's mules there. I don't care. It's about communicating with that particular horse
Yeah.
and trying to obtain that, that connection with that horse so that that horse can be an extension of you, whether you're on the ground or whether you're at liberty on the ground or even riding, and that's, it's a dance, and
Yes.
you guys are one unit working together. So, but again, we're the leader, because the second that they start to become their own leader, I've learned the hard way, then they're way more prone, instead of checking in with you when they get put in a situation, because we got to remember, these are, whether it's domestic or wild, these are prey animals. They're going to be upset about something at some point. It's not about if it happens, it's when it happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so when that horse gets put in a situation that makes it uncomfortable, I want it to check in with me. Hey, what do we do, boss? Rather than go into self-preservation, because that's a lot of times a bad spot for me and for the horse as well. And a lot of times you see wrecks that happen, and that's what usually in most cases has happened.
What is one mistake that you see people make when they, start a young horse for the first time, or even get a new horse? Because I know a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to go buy this horse and it's doing really well and it looks all nice and calm. And then they get it home and now it's a basket case and they don't realize, that horse needs to get to know you.
I think the biggest thing with any horse, wild or domestic, is I think that people are just kind of not present. And those little things add up to the big wreck. And what I mean by that is, like, I tend to be I'm kind of, my personality is kind of type A, but I mean, the little things, I love the attention to detail as far as behavior. And rather than just ignore that the horse is doing a certain thing or brush it off or get really upset about it, I got to try to figure out the chess match of why. And get to the core of why that horse is acting. Is it behavioral? Is it, because I'm communicating in a wrong way that he's interpreting? Like, there's some form of communication breach. And like you said, when people buy a new horse, that horse may be a little bit different, or the person that had it before, the owner that had it, might communicate a little bit different. So, everything's all on its head and different. So that horse starts to kind of melt down. So I think that being present and being aware of every little thing is a huge asset in any kind of training, personally, because then you're figuring out these little things that then, the big vices in horse behavior. Like, I do these problem solving clinics and people bring me their horse and it's like, well, my horse bucks under saddle. Well, that's the vice, but it was started by balance issue. We didn't have trust and respect, right?
Right.
And we got to go back to that foundation.
Symptom versus cause.
Exactly. And another thing that I try to do, and I've really figured out over the years, is I'm a little bit different than a lot of trainers, is a lot of trainers are really big on repetition. And, just repetition. And what I've found is then the problem, especially when you have a high self-preservation horse like a mule or a Mustang or any horse at that, if you do that repetition, if then all of a sudden that changes, there's a meltdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather build a connection with that horse where they're constantly checking in and stay very consistent. But like, I have to force myself, even because we get in a routine, right? We get our horses out and we do this and we do this and we get in this routine, right? And if that routine changes, they kind of have a meltdown, right?
Yeah.
If we go to a different place, it's a different barn, it's a different arena. Like, it shouldn't matter. Like, I mean, and I worked for a few years for a reining trainer, and I all I did was start colts for him, the 2-year-olds. And I'm not trying to talk bad on that discipline or anything. Basically, it's just repetition. Well, you take that, what they would consider a finished horse, they can do a perfect reining pattern, and you take him up in the mountains and you have a sage hen blow out from underneath his legs in tall grass. Like he's going to lose it. Like he's not going to be able to handle it. So like what I try to do with my colts that I'm starting for, the outside horses that I bring in to start for people, and then my own horses, is just constantly doing different things and changing it up. And they don't know from one day to the next what I'm going to do or what we're going to do that day. That way it keeps them connected. They stay really engaged, because then they'll start to, if they get into that repetition, they'll start to anticipate, and then they just start going through the motions. And then I've seen it at clinic. Well, he's doing it before I really actually asked him to back up. Well, that's a slippery slope, because you're getting ready to back him up and he's knowing you are because of the repetition, but then he's doing it on his own before he actually is responding to your cue. That breaks the connection of that leadership. He's doing it then on his own. He's not actually responding to you actually cueing him.
And that's actually a horse being really smart, right? He's trying to figure it out.
And, and why do horses have, again, back to that thing of like, why do horses have this deep rooted defiance? Because they really do. Well, what I've figured out over the years, and I could be wrong, but I don't think it's a pride thing. Like you and I don't want to be told what to do because I think there's pride involved. They don't want to be told what to do, because if they do, that puts them down a notch in the pecking order. And then they don't get that best feed. They don't get that, right? So, and they have a natural desire to want to work their way up. So that defiance, he's being a jerk. He's just being defiant. He's just trying to survive. If you think about it kind of more that way, it's a little easier, but we tend to take it personally, like, he doesn't want to listen to me,
Yeah. It's so funny.
She calls her horse. She has this beautiful young Andalusian, and she calls him a dick all the time. And sometimes he is, but he's not.
He's not. I just say it.
She just says it.
So like someone actually commented, like, "Don't call your horse a dick," and I'm like, "He doesn't speak English." So funny. I have this awesome brother-in-law, and he's been wanting me to train a Mustang for him as a pack animal, which I totally get. The way that you were like, I'm going to do this because I need a pack animal. He's been asking me to train one for a few years. I haven't done it yet, but what skills would you consider essential before someone actually heads into the backcountry? Because Sandy and I, we do a lot of trail riding. I love how you said you're just going to throw different stuff at them all the time. Is there like a certain like criteria that you think that we should hit before someone heads into the backcountry? Because I've never actually packed.
Pony horse or saddle horse?
Oh, pony horse.
Okay, so first of all, your saddle horse, I guess I should talk. I mean, your saddle horse has to be very broke.
Yeah.
Because, and people say, well, I get this often. I'm just a trail rider. I don't need to be able to side pass and do punches. Well, no. I'm not saying you are. But I do get that. I do get that a lot. Like
people say that all the time. Yeah. No, I hear you.
That horse needs to be able to move every part of its body, and if something starts to go sideways, you got to have control of that horse to kind of, so that horse needs to be pretty darn broke.
Right.
And we need to work a lot on ponying off of that horse. I use a crooper on all of my saddle horses. That's a huge thing to avoid a lot of wrecks, because if that lead rope gets underneath that tail, it can be sometimes an absolute wreck. And, that's one thing that is huge that you can avoid. And so I use a crooper a lot, not to necessarily
like because you need it, but just because you want the sensation.
Just to more desensitize the horses to get used to that. As far as the pack animal, a lot of desensitizing to ropes. I need to pick up all their feet with a rope. I rope all of my horses' feet. It makes a big difference. And then obviously, the britching behind, a lot of just desensitizing for that animal. And then the animal that you're ponying, in a round pen, like I do actually ponying workshops too, is making sure that they understand they can't just run past the saddle horse and moving that pony animal around, like backing them up from your saddle horse, like moving their hindquarters from your saddle horse, like pushing them around with the saddle horse so that they don't start to get pushy. Or in the event that they get scared and spooked, they don't blast and run through your saddle horse. So those are the big things that I feel like just people get this great romantic idea of I'm just going to get my horses and we're going to go packing in the mountains. Well, again, back to the little details, we got to get those kind of worked out, and for example, like with colts, like I'll pony them with no saddle on the trail behind my confident horse. And I'll do that quite a bit. Right.
Yeah.
And we'll go out there with no saddle on, just hanging out going down the trail, right? And then we'll introduce the pack saddle or a bareback pad or whatever, breaking down the steps. And then we'll do, a few sessions of that. And we'll go through some brush, where it's rubbing on the saddle and it's doing all that. And then we'll start doing some small loads and having those loads very balanced and very tied down, very secure, so they don't, get spooked and then blow up and the load comes off. They go, oh, that worked. And then they, then they learn that, oh, they just need to blow up if they get upset and they're going to get the load off type of thing, So just breaking down and preparing them as best you can is really what it all comes down to.
Now, one of the things that always impressed me with your videos is your pony horse is behind your saddle horse, and sometimes it doesn't look like you're holding a rope. Is it just the angle of the camera, or do you have another way that you tie all your horses together?
So no, I'm holding the lead rope of the pony horse right behind, and then if I'm leading a string, then I will then have a breakaway. So then you obviously get him halter broken. You have in case something. So there's a breakaway. There's a small, like it's cotton, like twine, kind of like baling twine thickness, and it's basically what I tie the next horse in line to.
What are you tying him to? The little ring on the back of the saddle?
No. So basically the twine that's the breakaway runs between, depending on the pack saddle, runs between either the D's on a Decker pack saddle or the crosses on a Sawbuck pack saddle. And it runs through and then goes down and fastens to the front cinch. So if that was to pull, it's not going to shift the saddle. It's pulling directly on the tree of the saddle versus a piece of breeching that's just on the back. It runs through the ring of the breeching, but it just uses that ring to keep it from falling down. Then you would just be pulling on the leather instead of on the actual tree of the saddle.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay, good. We actually did an episode on ponying. We pony our horses a lot, and we were helping a friend of ours pony. I always refer to you in every episode. I'm like, I watched this guy, Mustang Matt, and I don't know how he does it. And I was always curious. So thank you for letting us know that.
So a lot of my videos are, very, but there's a lot that goes into,
of course,
that. Yeah, it doesn't just, people have the misconception that I get these wild horses and then the next day I'm out there riding in the mountains.
No, I can see why, because it's a video and we're just seeing a glimpse into your life. We're not seeing the whole thing. So no.
Right. But there's a lot of work in the controlled round pen. And what I'll even do is if it's ponying him, I'll pony him in the round corral, then I'll pony him in the arena, then I'll take him in the pasture. So it's still somewhat contained so you don't have a wreck or something.
I feel like talking to you that Sandy and I are on the right track, girl.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Well, because I watch you all the time, so I better be on the right track. I watch you.
You're doing good.
Thank you so much for this interview. It has been fantastic for us. I'm wondering, how has been working so closely with Mustangs and all the other horses and the mules, how has that shaped who you are outside of the arena as a human?
Oh man, I think it's taught me so much. And I quite honestly, I kind of think like I am like a feral animal, It's definitely taught me a lot, and it's helped me to work on my patience. Horses have a great way of humbling us and really looking at and taking accountability. Like, okay, here's the deal. I messed up, right? Because people that are afraid, I have that oftentimes. Well, I don't want to mess my horse up. If you have the attitude that going into it that you're afraid to do something, I do this for a living and I make mistakes all the time.
Yeah.
We don't continue to make those mistakes. We learn from them. We try to do better and we try to change things for the next time. But the idea is, we have to grow and you have to put yourself out there. And I've learned that, in my own, life with everything else is if I don't try it, I'll never be able to do it. My biggest thing I try to tell people is, work with as many people as you can. There's not, my way of training a horse is effective and it works for me, but it's not the only way to do it.
Sure.
There's a number of different ways to go about it. And, you just got to be confident in what you do, because when you're confident about what you do, the horses definitely know it.
It's like
And
raising children.
yeah. I mean, I feel like what I've noticed is like with horses, I mean, I'm a lot better with horses than I am people, but with horses, if you take that same type of confidence, into the real world, what, I don't care what it is, but if and there's a fine line between cockiness and confidence, right?
Yeah.
And so like, but if you go into a job interview, right, or you go on a date, like if you carry yourself with confidence, you're automatically going to be a little bit more appealing. And so that's one thing that the Mustangs have taught me, is that you just got to really, and I'm very confident. I can step in a round pen and people are, but you put me in front of a bunch of people and I fall apart.
Aww.
My very first clinic, I puked twice.
I was gonna say,
before,
you guys
I was so
didn't
nervous.
throw up.
I was so nervous.
Aw. Well, I've been to one of your clinics. That's how I met you, was through Darlene Harmon. We came to one of your we came to one of your packing clinics, and she brought a couple of her horses. Yeah. So I've watched your clinic, and it didn't look like you were nervous or about to throw up at all.
Well, you gotta, what is that word? What is that? You gotta fake it till you make it.
Exactly. And I've been trying to get back to one of your clinics. I was part of a writing group, and they just didn't want to commit. And I just felt so bad because I kept reaching out to you and you kept giving me all this information, and they just would never commit. And I'm really hoping, I do follow you, so I do see your upcoming clinics that you do, and I'm hoping maybe you'll have one around here.
I don't have anything on the books right now, but I try to do my best as far as to let or post on my Facebook of where I'm going and what I'm doing. So.
And I see them. I think I'm one of your top.
I've traveled all over. I've gone all the way to New York. I've been to Alaska.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy. And, it's pretty humbling. I just can go around sharing my passion and people actually like it. So.
I want to be respectful of your time. We have one last question that we would like to ask you, and that is,
ma'am.
What do you hope your legacy will be as you reach the end of your career?
Or even like as you sunset into your life? I know this is a big question, but what is your legacy that you want to have left behind when there is nothing left?
Oh my goodness. That's a great question. What do I want my legacy to be? I think the biggest thing is just taking these horses that are considered, worthless or untrainable, or and just kind of showing people that if you do, and it's not easy. It definitely, there's so many times, like with Blue, I can't tell you how many times I wanted to beat my head against the wall and say, I just want to give up,
Yeah.
But, to show, I guess I'm just addicted to the challenge or something, but it's so rewarding too, to know that, this horse is trainable. And I had a small difference in making him, because quite honestly, I've had people offer me good amount of money for Blue after they,
I bet.
And so it's kind of rewarding to know that this horse was considered, a menace and a liability, and now he's an asset. And that's something. But just to, with the Mustangs, or not even Mustangs, problem horses, kill pen horses, all of it, like there's value there. The biggest thing I think that, people just don't want to put the time in, or don't have the knowledge. And that's another thing. So I've got some clients that they want to put the time in, they just don't know exactly, and that's where I kind of step in and help them just basically step by step figure it out. If we take one step and we gain 1 inch, every day, we're eventually, or 1% better every day, in 100 days we're there, so. But I guess, I don't know if I really answered it, but just.
I think
you did. Absolutely.
You did. Just that you made a difference in the life of these animals that people will see and notice, and maybe have a better perspective on that world. And you were a part of it.
Yeah. Because they're amazing animals, and they've taught me a lot. And I'm just, like majority of the, and I will say, like, the amount of time that I put into Blue, I could have trained and finished, probably
10.
four or five. Yeah, really well bred, domesticated horses.
Right.
So when you start thinking about like, and I struggle with that a lot. Like financially, I'd be a lot better. My body, I'm not, I'm not getting any younger. Like it definitely has, it's not the smartest thing for me to kind of have these troubled horses and everything. It'd be a lot easier on me.
Yeah.
But again, that's just not me. So,
Right.
and there's been times too, like it's pretty nice. Like over this last couple months, I've had a couple colts come in and they're just really well bred domesticated horses. And it's like, they're just so easy because I can take the same skills that I have with these really tough ones and I apply it. And they just like, I'm like, are you sure this horse hasn't been ridden before? She's like,
You know
oh,
what? Okay,
this is amazing.
I think you're selling yourself short. They're not easy. You're that good. It's
Nah,
you.
no,
Yes,
no.
Yes,
But
it is.
come on.
You need to take the compliment, man. Just take it.
well, thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, no, it's great. But and it is nice to have those really easy ones every once in a while. But that's just, unfortunately, I've carved out this niche, and always usually the problem or the difficult ones. But that's what I thrive. That's what I thrive on.
Yeah.
Yep. I hear that.
Well, thank you so much again, and we will absolutely stay in touch with you. We're actually following you, our Saddle Talk with Sandy and Kara Facebook page. We're following you, so we will stay on top of all of your adventures.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
And have
you.
a good night with your family and this week and everything. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Hey, friends. That's the end of today's ride. We hope you enjoyed listening. Don't forget to follow Saddle Talk with Sandy and Kara wherever you get your podcasts. Please leave us a review, share us with a friend, and saddle up with us next time as we ride through more stories, questions, and our wild tangents. Till then, friends, keep your boots dusty and your hard hats on. We hope to see you out on the trail.
Sandy and Kara stirrups swinging free, talking about life and love and mystery. From coyotes to coffee, they'll cover it all with the sagebrush blowing and the wild birds call. So cinch up your boots, we're hitting the track. Saddle Talk's on and we're not looking back.